Hello everybody, welcome back to Form Check Friday. This is the series where we take your viewer submitted videos and we try to give you some things to think about, some things to work on in your journey to become a stronger, more efficient powerlifter. So hopefully some of the things that you see on this series will help you maybe assess your own technique. If you're interested in getting your technique looked at by myself, you can send it in to formcheckfriday@gmail.com, and we use a random number generator, as well as we've been getting into the habit of picking one from about the last week or so that we're keeping it somewhat current, and the other 4 are from anywhere in our getting to be about 1,000 deep inbox. If you have submitted once, there's no need to submit again unless you needed to submit a different lift or it's been, a number of months or something like that. But if you don't get chosen, you don't need to resubmit. You do stay in the sort of bank of lifts that we keep hold of. So without any further ado, we'll get right down to it. So this first one comes from Anubis, and Anubis says, I've been following you for a while. Bench dips have helped a lot. Signed up for a bench competition like 3 weeks ago. Current tested max is 235. Managed to get it from 225 and increase it by 10 pounds in those 3 weeks. All in major part because of your advice from the Form Check Friday videos. It's great to hear. Currently weigh about 170 pounds. During this competition, the judges didn't take into account any of my attempts on the grounds that I was using too much arch. I don't mind really. I signed up to the challenge myself. I'm sending you a link to YouTube videos. Sending 3 videos, only did a single rep in each one. They're all bench presses. The 3 videos, each one doing a single rep, opened with 205 because I didn't feel like I warmed up properly. Don't think I did anything wrong, but I might be incorrect. So let's take a look at the first one here. Now this is just a sort of local gym competition, and apparently the judges did not like his arch. So the title of his email was "Almost Got Disqualified for Arching." Now obviously this isn't a sanctioned powerlifting meet, because in the sanctioned powerlifting meet, that is a totally normal and acceptable thing. All right, so let's take a look at this lift. Now you can see the judge gets up and is like trying to stick his hand underneath our boy here and say, hey, you got to put this down on the bench. You got to flatten out. But I think he just doesn't listen to it. So one thing I'm noticing here is right as you get to the chest, we're sort of starting to see the elbows just flare. We're losing a little bit of tension in the bottom, right there. Do you guys all see that? Guys and gals, try to be inclusive here. I can't get the keyboard to work. All right, so right from here, I want y'all to watch this elbow, and we'll see that it just kind of like, we lose a lot of that sort of tension, that external rotation. So a number of those things are going to contribute to this bar. The elbows being kind of behind the bar as we start the press, which I think makes it a little bit tougher than it otherwise would be. So that's one thing I would watch for. Now the second one here, 235, slipped a little on the way down and lost positioning, he says. So let's take a look. Another fairly long setup here. So, and you can see the judges are like, yeah, no, he's arching. So yeah, same kind of thing here. Right as you get to the chest, we're kind of losing that tightness in the shoulder, and the elbows are flaring out ahead of time, which is making it hard to kind of press back, because if we're already out here, we press back, we end up behind the bar. But if we stay in a good sort of tight position with the elbow, even just slightly leading on the way down, we're able to come out of that position, press the bar back, and have that little bit of a flare of the elbows contribute to that good, consistent bar path. Yeah, same kind of thing, just a little bit more exaggerated, obviously, with more weight on the bar. So the third attempt, he says he went for 245, started okay, and the weight didn't feel too heavy, but he says he missed the rep anyways. I think it was because I didn't use leg drive properly. Learned to bench by watching YouTube videos and practicing. This is the first time he's competed, and he only trained for 3 weeks. Has also never had his form checked, so he would like to know what we all think. Mostly me, though, I think. Okay, let's see what happens on this one. I'm gonna guess that the elbow looseness causes him to not be able to press the bar back, and the elbows get behind the bar too much, and the bar stops moving backwards like that and starts drifting out away from him. So the biggest thing Anubis is that we need to try to keep those elbows just a little bit tucked as we touch the chest. We're losing a lot of tightness. We're loosening as the bar touches the chest. And when the bar is on the chest, we actually want that to be the tightest part of the range of motion. So hopefully that analysis helps you out and makes sense. All right, we're going to move into our next one here. Our next one comes from Mihal. This is an RPE 9. He says he's been lifting for about 4 months, like to compete in the future when he gets stronger. Quick side note for anybody who is waiting to compete until they get stronger, just go compete. You will never be strong enough by your own admission. I still am not strong enough. There is no end to this journey. Just go compete, see if you like the sport before you spend a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of energy training to get stronger. Before you feel like it's okay to compete, just go compete and make sure that you like doing it. He's wondering if we can tell him what he may be doing wrong. Also has been working on more straight bar path. Still needs improvement. Is the center of gravity too far forward? Should I aim it more to the middle of my foot? Thanks in advance. All right. So let's take a look at this from Mihal here. Here we are. So let's see. He's wondering about his bar path. He's wondering if he's getting a little bit too far forward. Let's see what we think here. Depth, bruh. So first off, we need to squat deeper, especially if you're looking to compete. What we're looking for in depth is we're looking for the hip to be below the top of the knee. So that's the top of the knee. Right now, this is the hip joint. We need that hip joint here. So it's below the top of the knee. So you need to squat a fair bit deeper. Number one. The squat itself actually looks quite good. Doesn't look like we're getting too far forward. I would think maybe less about your bar path and more about sort of foot pressure, bracing. Looks like, oh, there we go. Right as I paused it, we started to lose it forward, right? Let's see if this depth rep is any deeper. So it's better when we're close to parallel there. We probably still need another 2 to 3 inches, but it's looking a little better. And yeah, we do start to lose it, and you can see if we watch closely here, you can see the elbow movement. So the upper back starts to loosen, the elbows kind of roll forward, and that bar really rolls forward too. So yes, there is some utility in looking at bar path, but bar path only tells you so much. Bar path will tell you, hey, something is going wrong. We need to be looking at the shoulders, we need to be looking at the hips, we need to be looking at the knees, we need to be looking at the feet to say what is going wrong. Excuse me. Hiccups today. So, like I said, we're here, and then that bar really rocks forward. So like I said, we can see that something's going wrong, but okay, bar path deviates. What does that mean, right? So that's the tough part of just analyzing bar path. But if we're watching his shoulders and upper back, we can see that we start to lose that. We can see that he starts to get on his toes here, that the heels start to peel and sort of pick up from the ground. So staying a little more rooted through the feet, keeping the upper back tighter, and squatting deeper are going to be the big 3 things I want you to focus on, Mihal. Our next submission here comes from Lewin, and he says he's an aspiring powerlifter. He's currently doing a simple Doug Hepburn 8x3 and 3x8 program. This was the last set of the 8x3. His max is 195 and 165 for 3 reps as shown in the video. It's about 84% of his max. So, let's see what we got here. All right, Lewin. So pretty nice tight setup. Now, always with the bench press, the first thing I start with is the unrack. Very forceful unrack. And not a bad unrack. I think the big thing we want to focus on with the unrack, if anybody out there has seen many of these Form Check Fridays, it's almost always something that I pick on. We want to make sure that we keep those shoulders locked in place as we unrack. And we can see we're pulled back and retracted there. As soon as he punches it out like that, we see those shoulders moving around a little bit. So we want to watch out for that. We want to try to keep those shoulders retracted and depressed as we unrack. Now, getting past that, I think the other thing I would probably coach you to do is bring that bar out just a touch more. That arrow is way too long. I want you to bring it out like that much more. You'll also notice after the fact, we're getting set through the elbows and the upper back in terms of external rotation. So we can see right here, cranks the elbows in. We should ideally have all this tightness created before we unrack. So looks like this is your friend or training partner over here. I would have him stand back here and hand that bar off to you. So you can have a lot more tightness out of the rack, so you can get more set out of the rack, and so you don't need to pop your shoulders out when you unrack. Now let's get into the bench press itself. It needs a lot more control in the bottom range of motion. We're coming down and just kind of boing, bouncing off the chest. And I think somebody actually was making fun of my my sound effects for the guy in the last video that was bouncing off the chest. But hey, you know, it works. So that's the big thing in terms of the press. More control, more tightness into that bottom position is going to give you a more consistent press. So try to just touch your t-shirt. Try to incorporate a small pause. Do things like that to improve and increase your control over the bar in the bottom of the range of motion. You don't see many people benching with like a full-blown smash and go press and then going to competition and hitting similar numbers, right? We need to practice the way we play, if you will. So those would be the big things I'd work on. Number one, tighter on the unrack, bring that bar out further, set the shoulder tension before you unrack, get your buddy there to hand off, and then control the bar more into the chest. All right. Who do we have next? We have Ian Conrad. So Ian says he is an 18-year-old lifter from the US, currently in the process of cutting from the 93 weight class to the 83 weight class. He says he was about 85 at the time of filming. This is a set of 8 deadlifts at 395. And what he'd put as RPE 7. He says he'd love to hear our opinion on his form, which has been changing as he's lost some weight. He uses straps because his gym doesn't allow chalk, and he has naturally very sweaty hands. All right. Let us dive in. There we go. Strapping up. Okay, interesting setup. So obviously his gym doesn't want him dropping the weights either. So he's got cushions and standing on a block to kind of normalize it a little bit. Now let's see what these pulls look like. To me, it looks like I'd probably cue you to push your knees out a little bit right off the hop. So right here, and it's kind of actually useful that we have this mirror, but the knees look really crowded and caved in there as you start the deadlift. And a lot of times that makes it tough to get the hips and low back working correctly, or feeling like they're working correctly, or contributing, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of the times what we can do, and you can see it in his foot too, really caved in the foot. So let's get that pressure on the outsides of the feet. Let's push those knees out a little bit, and I think that's going to allow you to get a little bit more extension, to be a bit more consistent through your pull. Because we can see right now, kind of losing that upper back. We're kind of starting to round out as the set wears on. So that'd be probably the biggest things I would focus on with your technique. Knees out just a little bit, just like push them out till they touch your arms. You don't need, it doesn't need to be a really exaggerated thing as well, especially in that left foot. Try to push that left foot out a little bit, right? So there's more pressure on the sort of external edge, lateral edge of your foot. And I think that'll go a long ways. Other than that, deadlift mechanics itself look really good. Alrighty, let's see what else we got going on here today. We have the last video, and what we're going to do today is we're going to do this last video from Ned Guilford, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put up a video of Sandro. Now, one thing that we did in the past was we would leave off with a video and say, hey, anybody watching, check this out, leave your opinion in the comments below, and let us know what you all see in terms of technique. So after we do Ned, we're going to leave one up here and just sort of outro with that. We'll let it play a few times while I say my piece as an outro, and we'll go from there. All right, so this is Ned. He's from Australia. He hopes we're all having a great day. He'd like to submit the video clip shown as 130 kilos for 8 out of 7 to 8 RPE. He says he's fairly new to rating RPE, but the percentage is about 72.5. 1 year into training, throughout the course of the last year, dropped 25 kilos down to 115 kilo body weight and ended up with a 480 kilo total with a 200 squat, 110 bench, and a 170 deadlift. He's now preparing for a novice powerlifting meet in a few months' time. So he ran strong lifts, did the Juggernaut method, now running a modified version of Juggernaut method with more volume and exercise variation, slightly skewed towards the deadlift as it is lagging behind. Watching our videos about a year ago, he says, among a select others, inspired him to turn his life around and start acting like an adult. Wow. Thank you. I'm incredibly grateful to have been able to have that kind of an impact. That's why we do this, right? He says he's managed to gain a tremendous amount of insight from watching the critiques of others lift and thought it was about time he submitted his own. All right, cool. All right, Ned, let's take a look. Let's see if we can full screen this. All right, Ned. Let's see what we got here, buddy. So he says his deadlift is lagging a little bit and, obviously wants to try to bring that up. Looks really solid. We'll see if we start to see things break down a little bit more as things move on. Looks to me like we could probably, without changing the torso position much, probably crank these shoulder blades like down, depress them a little bit more. Start position looks really good. Like the hip height is at sort of a really good angle. We're not losing or changing much in the initial phase off the floor, right? We could maybe be a little bit more patient and try to lead with that trunk a little bit more instead of allowing that angle to change a little off the floor. So if we watch, pulls in, all right. So let's try to get a decent line on this angle here. And then as we come up off the floor, he actually held it pretty well. Looks to me like we're pretty close. Let's continue watching. There we go. So doing a good job of, sort of creating a push off the floor. Keeping the back angle relatively still as we initiate the lift. Finishing each rep, making sure the knees are locked out. I think, Ned, I think you're just cursed with bencher arms. It's part of it. These to me look really good, Ned. Really, really good. We did start to kind of round just a little bit more in the mid back on the last rep or two there. Starting to round just a little bit more in here. So we could maybe start supplementing with some extra upper back work to help make the upper back stronger. But I think it's one of those things where it's just probably going to need a very sort of special dose of training stress, right? I think you should maybe look at how you're programming things, look at areas you could do more or less, play with the volume, play with the intensity, because I definitely don't think that there are huge technical issues there. So if the deadlift is lagging, then try to address it through a programming method. And our last video here we have is from Sandro. Now I'm going to open this and just play it in the background, and it should be on loop there. So he says, firstly, I would like to mention that I'm really grateful for the opportunity. He loves our content, never misses a video. Here's him deadlifting 155 kilos for 6. He says he knows his pull is inefficient and a bit forward. He says his back is rounded and he also has a lack of tension. His problem is that he's not really able to fix that. He might have weak hams and glutes, he says. Appreciates every tip in order to get a safer and more efficient deadlift. So I want everybody watching this video to take a look at Sandro's deadlift. We're going to let it play here one more time, and let's hear your critiques. And not even critiques, but what are your cues? Okay, so let's say there's some of you out there that are coaches. How do we approach this? How do we fix that? How do we help this lifter fix the issues that he's even self-identified in his deadlift? What can we do to try to help him achieve a better position? What are some accessory movements that you might recommend? Anything like that. I'd be very interested to hear what everybody out there is thinking. And yeah, hopefully we can have a productive conversation and help Sandro out with his deadlift. And with that, we're going to sign off. I will let this play through one last time, but I want to thank everybody for watching, for tuning in. Thank you all for your submissions. Again, if you'd like to submit, that email is formcheckfriday@gmail.com. Go ahead and send in. And yeah, make sure to join us for our Friday live streams on Twitch and sometimes on YouTube now. We've been doing some dual streams with a little bit of success there. So join us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Calgary Barbell. We do live form checks and Q&As. So be sure to tune in, and we'll see you all in the next one. Take care.